I'm going to now teach you how to make a beautiful ricotta and a date cake, which I'm going to serve with the coconut caramel sauce. But first, I'm going to teach you how to make tea. And you're probably wondering, why do you need to learn to make tea to make the cake? Well, this cake is flavored with tea. For the tea, I've got some water boiling, and in this I'm going to add a few spices. I've got cinnamon, I've got green cardamom, I've got fennel, and I've got ginger. And this is how you make masala chai. But this is going to be a tea, which you're going to infuse the cake. Tea bags, all stuff goes in, and you let that tea bags infuse in the spice water for a good 5 to 6 minutes. I'm going to shut off the heat. I will let the tea infuse and all the flavors steep in. Now while this is steeping and infusing, I am now going to make my mixture for the cake. The mixture for the cake, I have a blender here in which I'm going to add the various ingredients here. I've got egg, I've got dates. The dates give it a nice flavor and also a very nice color. I've got brown sugar, I've got soda bicarb, I've got baking powder, I've got flour, and I've got this cheese, ricotta, which I have made it into firm and then gritted it off. You can also mash it up, it's perfectly okay. To make this is very, very easy. You put everything into a blender and you whiz it till you get a smooth batter. Keep the milk here. Eggs to go in. This is 1, 2. It's a very, very simple dish, a very easy dish. You take a handful of dates, brown sugar, butter, everything goes in. A small pinch of soda bicarb and a small pinch of baking powder. And I'm going to just whisk that up. Just blitz it to form the smooth paste. And you can see all the dough is being blended, is dripping out with the egg. The sugar is gone in, it's going to melt off and blend all together. Let's have a little look. Oh, lovely. You can smell the dates. The cheese goes in now. And I'm going to add in the flour. And then I've got the tea, which is being infused. Now once you add in the flour and you blitz it together, it will tend to thicken up. And when it gets too thick, I can always add a little bit of milk into it. A very simple recipe. Always works. The balanced flour goes in. All of it. And I'm going to add in my tea water. It's fine. If a little bit of the spice goes in, it's fine. Just make sure the fennel seed goes in and not the big chunky cardamom and the cinnamon. It's a beautiful, gorgeous color, isn't it? Very nice. And let's whisk that up one more time. Look at that. Got lovely, lovely brown color. Once you want to bake your cake in oven, it will get into a rich, dark brown. Chocolatey brown, dark brown. Gorgeous. A little more. The mixture is almost ready. I'm going to switch it off and have a look. There we go. Oh yes, it's got a beautiful brown color, the rich dates and the tea color. I'm going to pour it into my little muffin molds here. put it on till 3/4, not too much. Once this cooks, it will get a darker color. It will be much richer in color. It will become deep brown. And this is going to go in an oven at 180 degrees centigrade. The oven is preheated and it will cook for a good 25 to 30 minutes. And there is a trick to check to see if it is cooked or not. I am going to teach that to you again. Just going to do one more. I am going to make 6. I have got more batch here which I am going to cook afterwards, but this is enough for now. So this goes in to the oven, 180 degrees centigrade for a good 25 to 30 minutes. Once it is cooked, how do you check if it is done? It may look quite done, is fine. You take a toothpick and you pierce the cake to see, and if the toothpick comes out clean, means it is cooked. You guys have a break, come back in 25 minutes, it's going to be done. In fact, come back in 40 minutes. I'm going to let the cake cook, take it out, cool it, and once it's done, I'm going to serve a sauce with that, and the sauce is made out of coconut and caramel. Have a break, have a tea, cup of coffee, and come back soon. My ricotta and date cake is ready. I've taken it out, it's cooled down, and here it is. A beautiful dark chocolate brown color, just the way I wanted. Now along with that, I'm going to do a sauce made out of coconut milk, but I'm going to actually make a caramel and then add coconut milk into it to give it a much deeper flavor, which will really complement the cake. So for that, with sugar in the pan. Now when you're making a caramel, you should never ever use a spoon and start stirring the caramel. If you do that, the caramel does not form properly. It becomes lumps of sugar, it will not melt through. Never stir the pan with the spoon, but you can always just lightly toss it around, that is acceptable. But don't take a spoon and start rubbing it up. It's not going to work, the caramel will not form. The sugar needs to have an even distribution of heat for it to caramelize. Never too high a heat, gentle heat, just to ensure that the sugar begins to melt on its own. It takes a little time, but it is well worth just standing around and watching it change the colors. From being white, it begins to melt down, and as soon as it begins to melt down, the sugar breaks. Once the sugar breaks, it then begins to change its consistency. It gets to a caramel stage. It begins to lightly become golden brown and brown. And as you can see it here, it's already beginning to melt. And as soon as the whole thing becomes almost translucent, you will see it will then change entirely to something very different. I'm going to lower the heat slightly. You can always turn the pan around, that's perfectly fine. Do not use a spoon, please. If you use a spoon, it is not going to work. And once the sugar melts, it will begin to become runny, and that is the consistency I'm looking for. And once that happens, the sugar is very easy to swirl in the pan. You can see that it's beginning to caramelize, it's beginning to melt. There you are, the golden streaks. That's what you need. Not too much. I've taken a small amount of sugar because I'm just making for one single portion of cake. You can make this sauce and you can keep it in the fridge. It will last you for a few days, not a problem at all. Also, because the sugar is caramelized, and once you add in the coconut milk, it takes on to a lovely light tan color. The sugar is ready. It's almost done. It is very much like making a butterscotch. It is the same principle. In butterscotch, you actually add butter into it, and then you add cream further down. If you look at that, that is the syrup. Now if you add into a spoon or a stirring stick, it's perfectly fine, but never before. In goes the coconut milk. And you see all the caramel will mix up with the sugar. It will become firm because the milk was cold, but it will all melt up and become a beautiful caramel sauce. But the caramel sauce has the flavoring of coconut milk. and that is the key in this dish. It adds a beautiful flavor and a very nice dimension to the dish. Just make sure you swirl it around on low heat to ensure that the caramel sugar melts into the coconut milk. I'm going to increase the heat and just make sure I'm going to swirl it around. This is almost ready. Just a little more, just to ensure that the sugar melts. If the sugar does not completely melt, it's perfectly okay, because you can still eat the caramel. If you really want to indulge a lot more, you can actually make the syrup and you can pour it onto the cake when they are warm. But the only problem with that is it absorbs all the coconut milk because they are warm, and when they do that, they become very heavy and stocky. Don't get me wrong, it is absolutely delicious. It will be a lot like a sticky toffee pudding, but very, very heavy. I don't like to have my sweets which are very heavy. I like my sugar content to be just right, and this is going to be perfect. There we are, the caramel is done. I am going to taste that. It's going to be very hot, so be careful. Oh, gorgeous. It's like toffee, coconut toffee. Look at it bubbling away. Naughty boy. It's very nice. And all you do is pour it on the cake. Isn't that gorgeous? You serve that with a big scoop of vanilla ice cream or a little kulfi, and it is absolutely heaven. The aromas are so welcoming. The caramel, the coconut, the pudding, the cake with dates, and the tea flavor, and there is also ricotta in that. It gives it a nice smooth feel. I just think this is an absolutely gorgeous dessert. Do try it, enjoy. You're going to thank me for this. My ricotta and date pudding and a coconut caramel.